What is up, everyone? Sean here, and welcome to another movie review with just me for now, and kind of understandably so, because this movie is very popular and at the same time niche. It's very specific for an audience, but that audience and pretty much like the fan base has been super dedicated for a very long time, especially here in America and pretty much all the other non-Asian countries, well, non-Japanese countries to be a little more, you know, elaborate, I guess. But anyways, today I'm going to be reviewing Shin Godzilla. I went out to see it at one of the very limited theaters. This had only one show time, very limited, and I think by the time this review comes out, it's already close to being at the end. So I can't really say it would be a good time for you guys to go see it. If you guys missed a chance to go see it in theaters, definitely go try to get it on Blu-ray and just try to support it as much as you can. This Godzilla film this definitely deserves a lot of support, and that kind of already tells you something about me with this movie. So I'll get more into it. But this review will be a non-spoilers version, and I will have a spoiler talk in the next video within the next hour or two or something like that. Not too far apart. So if you don't want to get spoiled, this is the video for you. And of course, you don't have to check out the other video if you want to go see it and don't want to get spoiled for Shin Godzilla. So first off, this is the first movie we've seen in years after Godzilla Final Wars from Japan, and of course from yours truly, Toho Films. And it's been about 12 years, I believe. The last came out in 04 or 2004, and we got one in 2016. Really, really awesome that they were able to bring it somehow to here in the States, although limited, but they were able to bring it nonetheless. Kind of like what one of the recent Dragon Ball Z movies had to go through, thanks to Funimation Films. And this version was subbed, and very heavily subbed, if I might add. But it's not really one of my criticisms I have for this film. It's something you really can do. It's a foreign film, and it's just one of those things like, sub versus dub. They both have their advantages, and it's just all about preference here. But I personally would prefer subbing, because I do have some familiarity with the Japanese language. I do speak it, and I can understand it pretty well comparing to a lot of the audiences. And I always it's nice to have subtitles to help me fill in the blanks for me to comprehend what they're saying. For the most part, I can kind of get like the vague premise of what they're saying because of the terms that they use in this film, and a lot of films in general. Like when it comes, especially with like political terms, a lot of like the older terms and formal Japanese versus informal Japanese, which I'm more familiar with. It's just something for me to help me fill in the gaps. So that's why I'm okay with subtitles. It doesn't really bother me reading them and trying to move up and down with my eyes and look at the film and the expressions of the characters and stuff like that. Because I can just look at the characters' faces and just look at the film, the subtitles, and kind of catch the words real quick and kind of get the premise of what they're saying. So, but anyways, that's enough of that. Basically, I'm okay with subtitles, and I try not to bag on dubs too much, but it kind of turns me off in a way because it kind of takes away the authenticity of the film. But enough of that. I'll probably make another film or another video about sub versus dub in a Hawk Talks episode. But anyways, let's get that out of the way and actually talk about Godzilla. I overall actually really liked it. It's not the best Godzilla, but it's a really nice Godzilla film, and it's very entertaining for what it is. And it's a reboot. It's pretty much a reboot from the 1954 Godzilla. I've actually never seen it in full in one go. I've kind of only seen it in clips as a child, and really never got a clear picture of it overall as a child. But I get it. I get what the 1954 film is all about, and just like in this one, it treats Godzilla like like a disaster, and it's pretty much kind of like a disaster movie rather than a monster film. As much as Godzilla is a monster in this in any other movie, it's very much like a disaster, really. Just like nature, cities get wrecked, people get scared, get riled up, they just panic and chaos ensues, and Godzilla is no different from any other disaster, like hurricanes or earthquakes or anything like that. It's just Godzilla is just another force of nature, and in this case, he's treated as a godly figure, which is why this is called Shin Godzilla. It's kind of like a quote unquote true. It can also mean true. It can also mean divine or godly, something with God or something like that, some kind of God, divinity, and ultimate even at times, and of course new. It can mean new, but doesn't mean that's what this film is trying to get across. Even though it is in a way, it is a new film for the audience anyway. But anyways, enough about the name. So Shin Godzilla, or AKA, a lot of people thought it was gonna be Godzilla Resurgence, but they decided to keep the name Shin Godzilla, probably just for the authenticity and to keep fans happy. For those who love originality, and at the same time, it's like, well, for the casuals, whatever. And really, I personally didn't care about Godzilla being changed into Godzilla Resurgence, or having them keep the name, because I was just happy that they were making another Godzilla film, and I was pretty satisfied for the most part. I had the expectations of having a lot of political scenes, because this is treated as a disaster rather than a monster film. If it was like a monster film, then you would kind of expect more of Godzilla, and that would kind of make it a downfall. And I understand why people don't like this film. It's it has very few scenes with Godzilla to their expectations, but there's a good amount of scenes with Godzilla in this one. If you really compare it to like the 2014 one by Legendary Films, that can be very mixed for a lot of people. I have mixed feelings about it, but for the most part, I liked it. I really liked it. It was much more refreshing, especially coming from seeing the 1998 Godzilla from, I think, TriStar, was it? The same guys who did Independence Day. Although there are some good things from that Godzilla comparing to 2014, but let's just put that aside. So this film was directed by Hideaki Anno. He is known to be heavily involved with the Neon Evangelion animes and animations and whatever and stuff like that. He's pretty much like the guy behind it. He's like I believe he's the art director, or just the director in general. Basically, he's the Neon Evangelion guy. That's all. That's what I see from him. And he was the director for this film, and you can definitely see that throughout the film. The cinematography, the way characters act, the way just things just pan out, or just things just the way the film flows. You really can see Anno's just his touches on this film. If you've seen the anime, even in clips, you will definitely feel that, and especially if you guys watch the whole thing in full. For Evangelion, like if you guys are Evangelion fans, you might actually really like this one, because especially if you love Godzilla, if you love Evangelion, you would love this film because of the familiarity that you will get from this film. It's just nice. It doesn't really take me away from being a Godzilla film. It only really enhances it for this movie. Doesn't really make me think of it as a negative or anything bad by any means for this film. So as I mentioned, that Godzilla doesn't really appear as much as a lot of the casual fans would expect. Whenever they think of a Godzilla film, they always think of like the actions aspects of Godzilla. They want to see a lot of Godzilla. Don't really care about the humans. They want to see Godzilla wreck shit. and stuff like that. But gotta really go into film thinking that this is a very serious situation. It's a disaster film, like I said before, and you're gonna see a lot of political scenes. But with that said, the political scenes were actually really interesting comparing to the 2014 ones, and these two can kind of compare because of the way or the amount of Godzilla you see first off, and like the sort of the ways the story flows. But I feel like if I had to really pin these two together against each other, I would definitely pick 2016 Godzilla, or Shin Godzilla, excuse me, over the 2014 Godzilla any day, because it was just interesting. It felt very authentic. It's straight from Japan. It's like if it's kind of like what James Rolfe said. He made his review on it about champagne. The true champagne you want is from France. No matter what you get from any other place, it's not the same. It's pretty much like that with Godzilla. Like it's kind of hard to explain like the feel that you get from watching a Japanese Godzilla film, but it just feels really like Godzilla. No matter how hard the Americans try to make it like the Japanese films, it's just not the same. It's just kind of like the way the Japanese tell stories versus the Americans tell stories. Very different, and Godzilla just works with the Japanese because, of course, it came from Japan. That's just something we really can't do anything about, especially with the American filmmakers. But it's a very good effort. I appreciate and respect their love for Godzilla, especially in 2014. I respect it, especially. It's a very good attempt. I respect it, and I really can see that they're trying to convey the 1954 Godzilla into the 2014 Godzilla film. But I just feel like Shin Godzilla is just overall the better Godzilla movie that is trying to be like the Godzilla that's introduced to the world, that kind of thing. I know that the 2014 Godzilla had more than just one monster. There was the what was it, the Cloverfield looking things, the Mutos. There you go. The Mutos were in the film, but they didn't really impress me by all that means. And Shin Godzilla only has Godzilla, but good God, I think you guys should really see it. I don't want to spoil it here, and a lot of the spoilers come from Godzilla himself. I really don't want to describe too much about Godzilla. It's the part of the surprises is seeing Godzilla in action. You definitely see a lot of destruction. You definitely see what Godzilla can do. It's crazy. It's chaotic whenever Godzilla shows up. And this movie really does a better job of showing Godzilla without abruptly cut him away. It's like, you see Godzilla do his thing, and then it cuts back to the humans. Unlike the 2014 Godzilla, Godzilla stomps his way into the airport, and he roars, and cut. You don't really see the fight. You don't really see the action happening. You only see it from like a TV screen with the news reporter reporting it as it's happening. But in Shin Godzilla, you see it in full, and then it cuts away at the right time. It's like, all right. We know what's going on. We know what Godzilla is doing, or what that scene of Godzilla is trying to convey, and they did a lot of the good things as well. And it really, and when it comes to the visuals, they really did a good job of blending the CGI and the animatronic stuff, or like the suits and stuff like that. I think for the most part, it's actually CG. I mean, a lot of people are arguing about whether it's more CG, whether it has a man in the suit. I think it was motion captured by an actor, but the things you see are mostly CG, but the motions are captured by an actor. So at least it looks authentic as a Godzilla film. And whenever you see the close-ups, those are definitely are something physical. It's like a puppet. It's like a like quote unquote animatronic, or just a puppet for the close-up shots. But when it comes to like him moving around, stuff like that, yeah, you can kind of tell it's CG. But it really does a really good job of using CG and in a combination of the good old guy in a suit kind of gimmick. But for the most part, for the sake of the 2010s, it's CG, and it didn't really bother me all that much for the most part. There were some parts where I just kind of tilted my head to, and just I don't know, but it kind of blew over really really quickly because of the other cool things that happened in this film. And my God, this film was really crazy. Ano really kind of really loved the way the things that he did to this Godzilla. And I will definitely talk more about that in the spoilers, because again, a lot of the spoilers come from what Godzilla does and what actions he does and stuff like that. When it comes to the political scenes, like I said, they were actually really interesting. There's a lot of talking going on with the humans, but for me, it was interesting. I definitely feel the Ano magic that comes from the scenes with the humans, and especially with the cinematography. Like I said, very, very just close-ups of their face, kind of like at a certain angle. You kind of like know that, you kind of get that Evangelion feel. They do have scenes like that in Evangelion with the close-ups on the characters' faces, and with the camera angle being kind of, kind of like that certain angle that that Ano messed around with, during the actual shoot. I don't know. It just works. As much there were like Evangelion has a lot of fans and a lot of haters, and but Ano, I think, did a pretty good job with the cinematography, the direction, and the flow of this film, and he was able to make the conversations with humans, for the most part, interesting. There are actually some humorous moments. There's a lot of subtitles though going on. Like I said, that could be a flaw for a number of people, but for me, not really. I already explained that why in the beginning, and if you don't like subtitles, that's just something we can't really do. There's a lot of actors in this film, and apparently, people in Japan love this film because of the casting. That's like one of the things they love about it. There are a good number of actors, or Japanese actors, that are pretty well known in Japan, and there are just so many actors that Funimation would not have enough time to really get this film out there in time. It would probably take about a good year or two to really get the dubbing down, and you can never really match the mouthing with English, because it's just obviously a different language. You can't really do anything about it, and sometimes it's just funny. It's like off, and like I don't mean by the actual syncing, but the voicing is just off. In the past, all these dubs of Godzilla, they've been really cheesy, but if you really look at it in a broader perspective, it just never really gets the full like Japanese feel, because it's Japanese, and I kind of wish dubbing would go through a different process. I mean, I don't want to really go into that because it would be a very long video, but I don't know. It'll never fully capture that Japanese-ness. I know that sounds funny, but yeah, never really fully captures, really like conveys the trueness, the authenticity of the scene with dubbing. That's why I felt like it was kind of the right choice, both financially and authenticity, for for Shin Godzilla to be subbed. So take it what you will, and if you agree with me or disagree with me, that's totally fine. But like I said, the political scenes were actually pretty well done, and it's far more interesting with the humans than in 2014. It's just, I don't know. When it comes to those scenes alone, I would much rather watch those scenes in Shin Godzilla than in 2014. 2014 Sure, it had Bryan Cranston, but he was the only guy that really held the film for the Americans, and unfortunately, he doesn't really stay in there for too long. But um, but overall, I don't know. It's just even with that, Shin Godzilla just had better scenes with the humans. They were just far more interesting. With all the political talk and the way they just treat Godzilla, that seriously. It's now when it comes to the music and the sounds and stuff like that, that's kind of where I'm gonna start to complain a little bit. But music is fine. Music is really cool. They bring back the old Godzilla theme. They have their own soundtrack as well for this film, not just the old Godzilla stuff. They have their own thing, and again, you will feel the Evangelion-ness of from the music as well as the cinematography, the film, the art direction and stuff like that, the visuals. So it's like as if Godzilla was in Evangelion. That's how I see it. A lot of the more casual moviegoers might not, definitely will not see that, but for me, that's just how I take it. So the original soundtrack for this film was fine. It worked. It sounded pretty epic. It conveyed the right mood for the film, and I think it did the job. Now, when it comes to the sounds, kind of questionable. I understand that they wanna make references to the 1954 Godzilla. That's a lot of that comes from the 1954 Godzilla. Like, it's literally pulled straight from it. Obviously, there's some digital magic thrown in there, but it's not. I don't know. It's a little off to me. The tanks, whenever the tanks started firing and stuff like that, it just felt it didn't feel like I didn't feel the weight of the firepower from the military, because they use a lot of the old sound effects from the 1954 film, and I just didn't feel it. I appreciate it, but I think it should at least get mixed with modern sounds in there, so you can actually hear the excuse me you can actually at least hear the old sounds, but at the same time have that meaniness from the rest of the support, the backbone from the modern sound mixing. That would be pretty cool. Make it just more meaty. And yeah, overall, pretty much like the military sounds, just a lot of it is borrowed from the 1954. Godzilla sounds fine. I actually, I like this roar. It's a lot of it comes from the old one as well. And they even throw in one of the more new ones as well somewhere in the film. I will probably talk about that in the spoilers, but they even throw that in there, and that really just it really worked for me too. I really liked it, and Godzilla's fine. When it comes to the atomic breath, whatever, that too, I really actually wanted some newer stuff in there. Like, I feel like they were trying to rely on a lot from 1954 Godzilla to carry on for this film as well when it comes to sounds. Again, they should at least put in some modern sound mixing in there along with the old sound effects to again add more meat to the destruction, the scenes you see with Godzilla, and I think with the foot stomps though, it kind of worked for Godzilla, but a lot of the sounds you hear is going to be from the old film. You can kind of tell, and it kind of just sounds off sometimes. But that's just me. If you guys kind of like that, that's fine. But for me, I kind of wish they actually put more meat into it by put some modern sound mixing in there. So that's just one of my gripes for this film. Another complaint I kind of do have as well is that some of the American actors or the English speaking actors were kind of off. They were kind of they kind of just said their lines. It didn't really feel like they put some emotion into it. It's very common with English speaking actors when a Japanese person is directing. It's you kind of see that in a lot of Japanese made games like Resident Evil and stuff like that. it's just because of the language barrier between the Japanese people and the English, and whether it's American or British or whatever, it's just language barriers, and it's kind of just hard to have the Japanese director to tell English speaking actors to convey this certain emotion or stuff like that. So just kind of like, fuck it, we'll just say our lines as best as we can. And in this film, there are some parts that are off. It's kind of just like, jeez. But it's something you really can't do. It's a foreign film, and it's just kind of hard to really get it perfected. It even goes with the other way around. So like, English director with Japanese people. Sometimes when people, Japanese people speak Japanese, doesn't really connect doesn't weave all that together in certain films. So it's sometimes they try to be too hard with the trying to be cool speaking Japanese, and it just kind of just doesn't really fit with the scene. It's not believable. So yeah, either way, it's really hard for different people to direct each other to convey certain emotions for when it comes to acting and stuff like that. So again, that's why English speaking actors can be a little off in Shin Godzilla. You'll definitely see that when you see it. Now, when it comes to Godzilla himself, speaking of which, I was questioning at first when Godzilla was first revealed through a poster. His eyes were super tiny. His teeth were super just weird, like menacing. It's all like messed up and uneven, and it's not like perfect. It's not symmetrical. It's like kind of all over the place. Kind of reminding me of like one of those sharks with like the very thin teeth, and they're just kind of all over the place. And I don't know, but over time it became like a Godzilla of its own, and I came to liking it. And this, for the most part, in this film, I did like the design for this movie. I know Godzilla had the tiny arms and stuff like that, but really you don't really notice that over time. Like in the film, you don't really care about the arms anymore. I totally just kind of forgot about the arms. The little T-Rex, tiny. I can't reach to I can't brush my teeth. Arms, like it's just. It's just something you kind of forget in the film, and you'll kind of know why when you watch the film. He's just big. I think this is actually the biggest Godzilla to date. When you actually compare it to the other Godzillas, even the 2014 Godzilla, that was the biggest Godzilla, and then this one came in. I've got the exact measurements, but he's definitely over 100 meters tall. I think he's around 120. But I don't know the exact numbers. But I know from what I've heard or what I've seen, he's actually noticeably bigger than the 2014 Godzilla. So this is probably the biggest one to date. And for the most part, I did like the design for Godzilla. I did like the Shin Godzilla. I did like the redness that it gave off. It was supposed to kind of convey the victims of the atomic bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. That's what Anno wanted to show in this film. It's kind of like the message of what nuclear power can do, and it's just kind of like the destruction and the result of nuclear power. I love this film for being able to really convey that Godzilla, which is kind of like this god, literal god that even from the human characters, they really they actually refer them to as a god, and it's very much so when the military tries to fight against Godzilla, whether it's Japanese or American. He was just bulletproof. He was even missiles couldn't stop him, bombs couldn't stop him. Of course, bullets, like I said, couldn't stop him. It's just he was just like a walking disaster that could not be stopped. Which is again why it's good sometimes to have Godzilla films to have him portrayed as a disaster, as much as it should be a monster movie. where you get to see a lot of the monster stuff, destruction, stuff like that. But and Godzilla was literally like a walking nuclear power plant. He did all kinds of stuff, and I definitely should really talk about that in the other film, or the other the other video with the spoilers. So yeah, it pretty much overall, I really like this film. I would definitely give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's not the best Godzilla. It's not my favorite of all time, but it's definitely a welcome back to Godzilla after 12 years of a hiatus from Japan. And at least with Legendary Films, they'll have a sequel for their Godzilla, and hopefully they learn from this Godzilla. They should really know how to portray Godzilla without cutting abruptly, and it really did a very good job with the build-up overall in Shin Godzilla, comparing to 2014. And I would definitely say would much rather watch Shin Godzilla over 2014, honestly. And even like because like the storytelling, the flow, the editing, the filming, and just the authenticity as well, and just visually it just looks better. Like you can see Godzilla during the day, and even at the night you really can see Godzilla too, and especially with the red, it really works with the night scenes. And in 2014, yeah, it's a lot of it's at night. You can't really see Godzilla all that well in some parts, or a number of parts. I think visually in a lot of things, Shin Godzilla does a lot better. And if you weigh them together, for me, Shin Godzilla. So yeah, again, it's a 7 out of 10. And if you really can go, try to catch it somewhere, and pay for it to support it, it definitely deserves it. Please go see it if you can. If you missed it already, I would wait for the Blu-ray, get it from Japan or whatever. Just do what you can to support this film. It really deserves it. We really, really, really deserve another film like this. I actually want to see more of this Godzilla in more films. I would love to see this Godzilla against other monsters, especially when I talk about in spoilers here. So that's pretty much it for my non-spoilers review on Shin Godzilla. I really liked it. It's very entertaining. Hideaki Anno did a pretty good job with Godzilla. I loved his take, or I respected his take, and I really liked it. His take on Godzilla. It's just crazy. I will definitely talk more than the spoiler talk. So if you guys have any comments, thoughts, or opinions about Shin Godzilla, go ahead and leave them below. And if you have any opinions about my opinion, or if you want to say about whatever, yeah, leave them down in this comment section below. And also check out the links in the description box below, including my social media stuff, and also Loot Crate. Really helps out if you guys actually check it out. Click on that link and use the promo code if you're interested in getting a Loot Crate. It's a 10% discount coupon code, HAWK525, and this will work with any Loot Crate, including Loot Gaming and stuff like that. So, but anyways, I highly appreciate if you guys take your time to do that. I think the next time I review a movie, it will be with Danny. We will definitely try to review Doctor Strange. I know that's coming out in early November-ish. And we have stuff coming up. I will talk more about that in an update video for November. So after we are back together, we will try to go see Doctor Strange, and our movie review will be on that, as well as Rogue One, all that other stuff, fun stuff. I really am looking forward to other movies. So, and really trying to get this green screen to be more consistent. Hopefully this comes out well and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll see from what happens from there. So, but anyways, nonetheless, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this portion of the review of Shin Godzilla. I will see you guys in the spoiler talk of this portion. So See you then. Sean out.